19 people have already been killed. Tomorrow, a day of mourning has been declared in the capital for the victims of the Russian attack. Flags will be flown at half-mast on all administrative buildings, and entertainment events are prohibited. According to the latest data, at least 19 people were killed in Kyiv during last night's Russian shelling, including 4 children. But search and rescue operations are still ongoing. Nearly 50 people have been injured. The Russians targeted residential areas directly with missiles and drones. There are as many as 33 locations in the capital affected by the overnight strike. In the Darnytskyi district, an entire entrance of a 5-story apartment building was destroyed, and high-rises were also damaged in the Dniprovskyi, Holosiivskyi, Shevchenkivskyi and Desnianskyi districts. The shockwave damaged the offices of fellow journalists from Radio Svoboda and Ukrainska Pravda. The editorial offices had their windows blown out, and some equipment in the premises was damaged. Fortunately, there were no casualties. The editorial teams are operating as usual. In total, about 500 rescuers are working simultaneously across Kyiv. In the Darnytskyi district, where a residential building was destroyed, the rescue operation is still ongoing. Olena Hushchyk was on site at the scene of the strikes, so she will now share all the details.
Darnytskyi district, the area that suffered perhaps the most during this night attack. Behind me is a 5-story building that the Russians destroyed, or more precisely, part of it. We can clearly see right now that dedicated rescuers are actively trying to free people from their damaged apartments, and at the very same time, our brave firefighters are also diligently working above. There is a team of rescuers on the 5th and 4th floors over there, and as we can clearly see at this very same time on the 1st and 2nd floors, they are currently diligently clearing the rubble, actively trying to find people. They are searching for 10 more people under the concrete slabs. Meanwhile, dozens of relatives are waiting for loved ones under debris.
A woman is waiting for her daughter and her 2-year-old granddaughter. We are constantly by her side, accompanying her, staying in contact with her. There is also a man whose child, a girl, has died. The body has already been taken away, so now he is just handling the paperwork. We are accompanying him as well. These are the people I have personally spoken with. And also a man who is waiting for his wife to be found.
Rescuers need to work quickly and carefully. One wrong move could end in tragedy, both for those trapped under the rubble and for the firefighters. There is fragile concrete underfoot and overhead. Several helicopters carrying water are in the sky at once. It's already noon and black smoke is still billowing from under the rubble.
There are still hot spots in the neck, but firefighters have put out the 40th one already.
Forensic experts, investigators and police officers documenting Russian crimes, about a dozen black body bags lie on the ground.
Fragments of bodies were found at some of our locations. After the bodies are accurately identified, we can finally begin to talk about the total number of dead.
10, then 12, then 18. The tragic death toll is sadly rising every single hour. Among them are 4 children.
We can clearly see rescuers bringing a stretcher, and with a large crane, they are carefully lowering the body of another victim from the 4th or 5th floor of the building.
Local request from us.
In addition to this building, a 16-story and a 9-story building, as well as a private house, were also damaged. Also a kindergarten and dozens of cars in the parking lots.
About 20. These are the ones we can see because for now it's not possible to go any further. Rescue operations are still ongoing.
The men who were working on the 8th floor say it was the hardest day of their lives.
A few streets away, there's another high-rise building. Around the 10th floor, there's a noticeable black hole from where the drone precisely hit.
The residents of this building are cleaning out all the burned belongings and throwing them straight out the windows. All of it just falls straight down. Glass, belongings, and some heavy household items.
Virtually every apartment in at least 3 entrances has been destroyed. People are simultaneously throwing out damaged items and trying to save what survived. The police are taking turns collecting and recording statements from the drivers.
The door simply won't close, as the lock is completely jammed.
The entire left bank is covered in smoke. Since morning, both ambulances and fire trucks have been driving around the city at the same time. The Kyiv city administration reports a new anti-record, with something burning or being patched up in every district of the city. Rescuers do not stop working even during air raid alerts, when explosions can be heard in neighboring districts. All city services are working in sync, from utility workers to electricians and gas technicians. Even a mobile passport service is operating at the headquarters locations so that people who have lost their documents can quickly restore them.
In total, across Kyiv, the number of damaged sites reaches up to 100. And right now, rescuers are working at each of these locations, carefully examining and processing either drone debris or the aftermath of missile strikes. That is why they urge people not to approach or come near such places. And if you truly happen to see anything suspicious, immediately call 102 or 103. Olena Hushchyk, Roman Repa. This has been TSN 1+1 reporting live. So worried.
On the night of August 28th, Russia launched a significant number of 629 attack drones and various air and ground-launched missiles at Ukraine. Our air defense forces successfully shot down and neutralized 589 aerial targets, while missile and drone strikes were unfortunately recorded at 13 distinct locations. Debris from downed objects fell in 26 locations. Monitoring channels tracked the movement of enemy missiles and drones over the territory of Ukraine. On the screen, you can now see the complicated trajectories they followed to hit their targets. These are approximate routes. It is widely reported that the enemy forces launched at least 10 Iskander ballistic missiles and 2 Kinjal air ballistic missiles. The very center of the capital city is completely strewn with shattered glass and building debris as a direct result of the recent Russian attack. The city mayor, Vitaly Klitschko, reported a possible enemy strike on one of the shopping centers. Since morning, one of the downtown streets has been blocked off. Rescue workers, utility services, and the police are working there. Only apartment owners and office workers who have come to retrieve any of their surviving personal belongings are allowed past the heavily restricted tape, which marks the perimeter. Alina Lisova will now tell us about the current situation.
Right in the very center of the capital, in fact, one of the main streets, which was damaged as a result of last night's Russian combined attack. As we can clearly see right now, this entire street is still completely cordoned off with bright restriction tape. People are not being allowed in as heavy machinery is operating on the street. Law enforcement, emergency services, police and other various agencies are actively working here, diligently trying to deal with the immediate aftermath of the recent Russian attack. We can clearly see that countless shards of glass and other construction debris are scattered everywhere here. Various establishments have been affected here. We know that mainly there are various food establishments, bustling coffee shops, and numerous office spaces here, where people actually work. Individuals who came here today to carefully pick up whatever personal belongings survived. They took what was most valuable to them. I clearly see a gleaming trophy.
The trophy, it's truly a winner's cup. We never ever give up, so nothing truly terrible happened. We'll fix absolutely everything. The main and most important thing is that everyone is safe.
How serious is the damage to the really building?
Let's put it this way, it's not exactly what you'd expect. Inside you could say it's more or less intact, but the facade is completely destroyed. The windows were blown out and even some bricks are lying down there. So these are very serious damages indeed.
There is currently no information on how many buildings in this area have been affected overall. However, near this site, a headquarters for disaster response has already been set up, where all the necessary materials are being provided to help restore the damaged buildings, offices, and other premises. Alina Lisova and Alexander Shian reporting for TSN 1+1 with the latest news.
The night attack on Kyiv demonstrates a deliberate choice to escalate the conflict and a disregard for peaceful efforts, commented the European Union's chief diplomat. Kaja Kallas called on Moscow to stop the killings and engage in peace negotiations. The Estonian Prime Minister called to put pressure on Russia, as this is the only language Putin understands. He explained, this means tougher sanctions and unwavering military support for Ukraine. The chief diplomat of Lithuania called for a decisive response to strengthen sanctions against Russia and to arm our country more quickly. The Austrian Foreign Ministry also condemned the attack. They emphasized Russia is deliberately terrorizing the civilian population, violating international law and committing war crimes. Meanwhile, President Zelensky placed particular emphasis on the reaction of two countries he is waiting for. He is referring to Hungary and China. The head of state stressed, today's Russian missiles and attack drones are a clear response to everyone in the world who, for weeks and months, has been calling for a ceasefire and for real diplomacy. The president of Ukraine says, Russia chooses ballistic missiles over the negotiating table. All established deadlines have been completely missed, and dozens of significant diplomatic opportunities have been squandered, and the aggressor country absolutely must feel the severe consequences of its actions. Russia deliberately targeted a building next to the European Union delegation in Kyiv, commented Katarina Maternova, the EU ambassador to Ukraine, regarding the combined Russian attack. According to her, the blast wave severely damaged the diplomatic mission building as well as the residential building where many of her colleagues live. Matanova, who is currently in Slovakia for her mother's funeral, commented emotionally on the Russian strike, stating that the war has reached the European Union, that Putin will stop at nothing, and that this is not a military operation as the Russians call it, but terrorism. The British Council office was also affected during the attack. Ukraine's chief diplomat called the damage to European diplomatic missions a direct violation of the Vienna Convention. Andrei Sabiga emphasized, "This requires condemnation not only from the EU but from the entire world." He also emphatically added that Ukraine resolutely insists on a decisive and robust international response to Russia's brutal and unprovoked strike on Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities. Now we return to the enemy attack on Kyiv that took place last night. The air raid alert here lasted for 9 hours. Rescue workers were deployed to 20 locations across 8 out of the 10 districts of the capital. In the city center, a shopping mall was hit, and on the left bank, debris fell onto the grounds of a kindergarten, causing a fire. In the Shevchenkivskyi district, utility workers and police officers were working near a huge crater that formed as a result of an enemy munition striking close to a gas station. The scene looked like something truly out of a post-apocalyptic movie. Cars completely buried under the earth, severed electrical wires hanging precariously from concrete poles that were twisted and contorted by the powerful explosions. The 5-story building nearby was completely burned out, and the parked cars caught fire. The nearby playground and the kindergarten facility were also significantly damaged. Nataliia Nahorna, a local resident, personally witnessed the very first hours immediately following the devastating Russian strike on the area.
A Shahed drone tragically hit here today at 4:35 in the morning. Right here you can see the exact impact site. The concrete was pierced and the metal was bent. As you can clearly see, this incident happened right next to the children's playground, which also resulted in damage to the nearby kindergarten. Here the windows were completely blown out and the doors were violently torn off. As for this courtyard, there are visibly 2 or 3 severely burned out cars here. At first, people bravely tried to put out the raging fire themselves, but in the end, they tragically had to wait for the rescuers to finally arrive, because they couldn't even tell whose heavily damaged car was whose.
This one here is my daughter's car. That's actually a Toyota RAV4 model indeed.
Now you can't even recognize that it's a Toyota RAV4.
It was located right over there, precisely where the large crater is situated. There's the crater behind the guys. That's where it was parked by the tree. And as far as I fully understand, that's exactly where it truly did indeed hit. It was thrown all the way over here. It happened, we clearly heard the glass shatter, and when we looked out the window, everything was completely on fire here. I immediately understood that it was indeed war, and you have to be truly ready for absolutely anything. I have 2 fire extinguishers at home. I grabbed one, then the other. I ran to the parking lot, tossed one aside, pulled the pin from the other, realizing everything here was on fire. I couldn't actually see my car in its designated spot. I observed that everything here was completely blocked off, so there was absolutely no way to get close. At first, I genuinely thought that was my car lying on its side. And I realized that, well, the kids have nowhere to go now. What a complete mess this is, and now I really need to gather all of the necessary documents. It's really good that I have insurance and casco, and that the car is insured in case of military actions. There are some significant problems, probably will be, like the fact that I still not yet found the actual license plates. Well, the entire back of the vehicle is a total disaster, and I will definitely have to look for the vehicle identification number, the VIN code. I am really hoping for the highway service, which will certainly help to accurately identify the car. The car is attached. This is precisely how it looked yesterday after Mayaki.
This is how it looks today.
With cleaning, they treat chewing gum with cleaning. And this is how it looks today. I'm glad that I'm alive. I'm truly glad that we're still alive and that the car is also still alive. I've already cried, and I'm just so very, very relieved. The educational institution was damaged. This is the total number of vehicles that were burned as a direct result of the recent Shahed drone strike.
The Shahed drone hit its target directly. It was parked in precisely the right spot, making it an easy target.
This is what, according to the rescuers, tragically brought death to many people last night. In fact, the powerful engine from the Shahed drone is lying right on top of the completely burned car. As you can clearly see, they have already managed to successfully put out the building itself, but it is now completely blackened. And now they are waiting here to carefully collect evidence and figure out exactly which specific type of Shahed it was.
The windows in the houses were blown out too. Unfortunately, we are alive and healthy. That's most important. Everything will be all right.
And overall, in this district, there were strikes in 3 different places at once. Also, there is a rather large and noticeable crater located near the gas station, and one of the city's main thoroughfares is currently completely blocked off. Nataliia Nahorna, Ihor City, TSN 1+1.